Assalamu alaikum. I say welcome to all of my students to my psychology class. As you know, fourth year we are studying applied psychology part 2, and we already discussed what is the syllabus. First of all, we have studied introduction of psychology and its scope, and introduction of applied areas of psychology. Then we talked about in the last lecture what is clinical psychology, what is the brief history of clinical psychology, what role clinical psychologists play in their lives, and what are different perspectives and theories and therapies and assessment procedure clinical psychologists use in order to help people come out of their problems. Because in the same way as people have some kind of psychological disorders and problems, they go to the clinical psychologist in order to resolve the issue. In the same way, in our daily life, we have so many other problems, and for that purpose, we have another branch of psychology. We have another kind of psychologists. Those are called the counseling psychologists, and the branch of psychology is called the counseling psychology. So, counseling psychology is a specialty of psychology which is related to everyday problems, issues. It deals with your normal emotional problems, it deals with your behavior problems. It talks about how you can well adjust into your job, how you can get satisfaction by doing your work of your own choice, and how you can develop and excel in your career, and how you can be the most interesting person in your life. So, and how you can smoothly run your life. So this is the basic aim and the objective of counseling psychology is to help people in daily life to come out of their emotional problems, and they can smoothly run their life affairs. So the scope of counseling psychology is very vast. Currently, counseling psychologists they are working into every field of life. You can see counseling psychology in the health psychology, in the health settings they are working, and in educational setting, career counselors and are available to guide people to adopt, to choose like careers according to your own aptitude, and for that purpose they conduct psychological test in order to find out that what is the aptitude of the individual, and which profession will match or which career will match and or get along with the aptitude of the person. And how you can increase in the organizational psychology, the psychologist and the work in order to recruit the right person for the right job. If you need to get the best output or the performance of the employees, so the employer usually they get the help from the counseling psychologist, and they help them to come out of their problems. In the same way, to develop a healthy relationship between the consumer and the organizational setting, counseling psychologists are doing a lot nowadays. Moreover, in your personal life, your relationships, counseling psychology works a lot. There are so many issues in the marital relationship, there are so many problems with the parent-child relationships. So counseling psychologists also help people to develop a healthy relationship, or to grow in a normal way, so that they can enjoy the beauty of the life and the blessings of the life. If we talk about the history of, a brief history of psychology, then I would like to show you some of the slides. And you see here, I will just say that how it was emerged. And if we talk about history of the psychology, and we discuss the timeline, first of all you will see in the 19th century, counseling psychology was only practiced, not practiced as a separate profession, but like people, the advocates and the educationists and the social workers, they were used to use counseling advice and guidance as a counseling service. But later on, Sigmund Freud was the person. Actually, he was a neurologist, and he tried to help the people who were suffering or having some mental illness. So he actually is the founder of the counseling psychology, because he really want to help people if they have any kind of mental illness. Though his therapy and the theory was criticized a lot, but he was the first person who identified that people have some kind of mental illness, and if their behaviors and their life is not they are not feeling confident, if they are not enjoying or satisfied with their life, then definitely they have some kind of mental issue, and it should be an emotional problem or a behavior problem. It should be resolved. So early in the 1900, the three pioneers stood out in the advancement of the counseling, like Frank Pearson's, and he is regarded as the father of the vocational guidance movement, who founded the Boston Vocational Bureau in 1908, and he was which was a major step in the institutionalized of guidance. Then you have to keep noted the name of the Jesse B. Davis, who created the first systematized guidance program in public where schools, and paved the way for school guidance and counseling. And Clifford Beers on the battle with the mental illness and depression, exposed the poor conditions of the mental institutions in his book A Mind That Found Itself in 1900. So these are the big names. Like you have to remember the name of the Frank Parson. You have to keep the name of the Cliff Beers. You don't have to forget Jesse B. Davis. So these are the three major pioneer names who worked a lot for the early development of the counseling psychology. If we move further, then in the development, setting the counseling groundwork, you can open up your textbook, then you can get more details if you want. I'm not focusing. Then the vocational counseling service, it evolves with the Great Depression. Later on, the name Carl Rogers. I showed you a picture of the Carl Rogers. He was the person who actually published his book Counseling and Psychotherapy, which emphasized a focus on the personhood of the client and a non-directive approach to the counseling. His theory was controversial, and he was based on the belief that the clients were responsible for their own growth and would know themselves better if they felt accepted and heard. So he was kind of rebellion, just opposite to the Freudian theory that the individual is tied up with his past and his instincts. So his instincts led him to perform something. But Carl Rogers said that man is a free person. Everyone who has a free will, you can do whatever you want and you can improve yourself. So he talked about the self-actualization process. Later on, as people talking about resolution of the problems and the counseling services, then the government start involving more into that, and after World War II, the government get involved more into that. So you should keep in mind that after World War II, counseling services really upgraded. Then in the meanwhile, after that, many new theories of counseling start emerging, and you can see before 1950, the four main theories were practiced: psychoanalysis, trait factor and directive theories, humanistic and client theories, and behavioral theories. But after 1950s, New theories also began to emerge as a systematic desensitization, like Joseph Wolpe gave the relaxation theory and the therapy of systematic desensitization, and rational emotive behavior therapy of Albert Ellis become more popular than transaction analysis of Eric Berne and the cognitive theory Aaron Beck. These are the new theories which emerged later on after the 1950. So counseling as a developmental profession, you can see it evolved and it developed, and so we can say that the counselor in a changing world which focuses on the working together to resolve the developmental needs set the tone for the 1960s. And in 1963 the Community Mental Health Center Act authorized the establishment of the mental health centers and the paved the ways for the counseling career in addiction and alcohol abuse counseling. So the Education Resource Information Center, Clearing House on Counseling and Personnel Services was founded in 1960s, and it would become more one of the largest, most used resources on the counseling trend and activities throughout the world. Then there is a lot of diversion in counseling, like it talks about so many differences and discriminations, and it talks stop, there should be no discrimination, and before that people they have there was legislation developed for the counselors and educators to establish standards to require a master degree in the counseling, and in this way counseling started as a professional degree. In 1900, standardization of training, certification and human development begins, and later on counseling in 1990s was included in the first time in the health care human resource statistics as a primary mental health profession by the Center for Mental Health Services and the National Institute of Mental Health. So then there are certain trends of the 2000s and today. So nowadays, after so many natural calamities and the cultural change and the drastic change of the human being life and due to industrialization, so stress keep on increasing. So in order to cope with those stress factors, or whether that stress is being due to trauma, so PTSD was a post-traumatic stress disorder, was very common. So the idea of the well-being is gained like people, there should be more promotion of the positive state or the well-being, and technology also help today how to online, or people at the distance are being able to get their counseling telephonically, and online people can get counseling services in order to solve their personal, daily, emotional and behavioral and the psychological problems. So these are the trends for 2000 and today. I think we have talked about a lot about the history in detail, so you have to keep in mind that the role of the counseling psychologist is very prominent, because if you are stuck into any of your emotional or the behavioral problem and there is no one to help you out to come out there, the person can be the victim of more severe psychological disorder. So the role of the counseling psychologist is to prevent a person to be the victim of the more severe psychological disorders, and at an early stage when a person resolve his or her emotional, behavioral and psychological issues, then he is able to perform well and function well in his or her daily life. So there are different perspectives of psychology. I briefly highlight like early. If you look at the historical background, you can see that in the beginning, counseling psychology was not considered as a profession, and only people through advice and advocacy they can provide children and the other like young youth to get a guidance for their problems in their daily life. But later on, it become more diverse and it become more effective and it become more standardized with the passage of time. And then you see there is a humanistic perspective, there is a biological perspective, there is a psychoanalytical perspective, then came the rational emotive perspective and behavior perspective. So these are the major perspectives in counseling psychology. Then in the same way, in order to assess that how big the problem is or what to identify the problem, we do the assessment. So counseling psychology also do assessment. They take the case interviews and the case histories in which they obtain the information about the activities and the life and the development of the individual, so that they can be able to identify that what is the real problem in order to address that particular problem which is creating like disturbance in the life of the individual. Then the status of the counseling psychology in the world have we already discussed. Everywhere, in the schools, in the health settings, in sports, in organizational and industrial settings, in educational settings, like in every affair of life. Like if a person is having cancer, so in order to boost up his well-being, the counseling psychology help the person to stay calm and use his positive thoughts and avoid the negative thought process. So status of counseling for psychology is currently very bright over here, and now in this pandemic, many institutions, University of Punjab and other universities, and they are providing like online services, counseling services to everyone, like for their solution to the problem, whether they are educational, whether they are emotional, or whether they are related to the pandemic. So this was today's lecture, students. I hope you will really enjoy it, and please focus on that. Have a good day. Bye bye.